Hi, my name is Tim. Some people know me, some people know of me but have never met me who might be watching this. Um, my friend Sammy, who may also be your friend, brought to my attention some changes to IRS Form 1099K. And because I have filed my own taxes for several years, because tend to understand tax paperwork and government paperwork in general pretty well. I work in healthcare and specifically certain government programs that have a lot of government paperwork in them. So she asked me, Sammy did, if I could do a little video explaining these 1099K changes, particularly for some friends that she knows who are involved in small business selling jewelry or clothing or some of these other organizations. So that's what I'm doing today. I may have to break this video into multiple parts. I'm recording it on my phone. I wanted to do it on the computer, but it was not cooperating. So I apologize if things look a little bit small. I will provide information to where you can find all of this paperwork yourself. So here we go. This is the Form 1099K from the IRS. This is the 2021 version. You do not have to worry about the 2021 version. You're going to worry about the 2022 version, which you will file with future taxes, such as in early 2023, and we'll get to that. First of all, your small business, whatever it may be, if you make more than $600 a year, the IRS expects you to report that income to them. When you file your taxes in the first part of the year with respect to what you made last year, so for instance, what you made in 2020, you filed paperwork sometime in the first half of 2021. Usually that's a Form 1040 or a 1040EZ, or there's a different variation on the 1040, but something like that. 1040 is usually the one that you're working with. That's for individual people. If you're a corporation, that's a different thing. If you're a corporation, you should talk to your own accountant. Which brings me to a point that I really want to make. I am not an attorney. I am not an accountant. I am not a tax expert in any way, shape, or form. I am not a registered financial advisor or anything like that. Everything I am about to tell you is my opinion and best understanding about these tax laws. However, this is not legal advice or official tax advice in any way. I disavow the use of this information for any purpose. If you don't understand something and you want to be sure about it, you should talk to an accountant or another tax expert or an attorney, please. I'm going to do my best because I want to help people out, but I'm not official in any way here. I want to make that clear. This is not tax advice. Please don't sue me if you use it and get into trouble. Your small business, if you make more than $600 a year, the IRS expects you to file that information on your tax return as income. Generally, if you're going to do that, you also are going to talk about different aspects of your business in your taxes, such as what it costs you to run your business, because it's kind of silly to say, okay, IRS, I made $2,000, $3,000, $10,000 from my small business, my self, and not say, but it took me $4,000 or $5,000 worth of that in order to pay for office space and supplies and things like this. That means you have to keep track of your office space and your supplies and things like that, so you can fill those out properly on the form. So Some of you may not have been doing that very closely, and that's something you would want to start doing January of 2022. And I'll mention why that date is important here in a little bit. We'll talk more about those deductions, the costs of running your business, later on in the video here. The tax code has changed. The rule that if you make more than $600, you're supposed to file your business income has been around a long time. So I've seen some people say, oh, this administration or Congress or whoever is raising taxes on me and my small business. They're not raising the taxes, but you were kind of supposed to be reporting this the whole time. Some people didn't, or didn't. Maybe they didn't know they should. Maybe they thought their business was so small that it didn't matter or didn't need to be reported. Whatever the case may be, now you know. Form 1099-K has existed for a while. It's in the past. It's only applied to if you collected more than $20,000 or had more than 200 card transactions or other electronic transactions, and then this form would come into play. But they've changed it now so that if you made more than $600 in transaction, if you received, as a business, as a seller, if you received more than $600, this form now has to be filled out. So what is it? By the way, you can go to irs.gov, irs.gov, put 1099-K in the search box, and it comes up with several very useful pages. That's the pages I'm referencing here. I printed them out to make it easy to make this video on myself. But the information is all there. The first several replies it gives includes the actual form and a couple different explanations about it. This page is about Form 1099-K, payment card, and third-party network transactions. A payment settlement entity, PSE, must file Form 1099-K for payments made in settlement of reportable payment transactions for each calendar year. A PSE makes a payment in settlement of a reportable payment transaction, that is, any payment card or third-party network transaction, if the PSE submits the instruction to transfer funds to the account of the participating payee to settle the reportable payment transaction. Boy, that's a lot of gobbledygook. Here's what we're talking about. A payment settlement entity, or PSE, is anyone who handles the credit card or other electronic transactions for your sales. If you're selling things on eBay, eBay is the PSE. If you're selling things through Amazon, Amazon is the PSE. If you're selling things and collecting payments through PayPal, PayPal is the PSE. They're the people who have to fill out this form. So, first thing, the 1099-K is not something that you fill out. It's something that PayPal or eBay or Amazon or any similar organization, they will fill it out and they will send you a copy. Now, they're also sending a copy to the IRS with their business taxes. What that means is if the people at the IRS are really, really bored, they can look at that form and it says PayPal gave you $10,000, processed to you $10,000 last year. And if you didn't include that on your taxes, well, then the IRS can get upset about that. And they will. So that's what this is all about. Any transaction which uses a credit card, debit card, gift card, electronic check, electronic funds transfer, anything that went through PayPal or eBay, or I'm just going to say PayPal, but I mean everybody from now on. That's all going to be listed on there. Not individually, and they're going to give you a number, a total dollar amount, basically. So That's what the form is. That's what we're talking about. And again, it used to be they would only do that if you made $20,000 or something like that. But now it's anything over $600. So another of the pages there on the IRS page, this is called Understanding Your Form 1099-K. Form 1099-K payment card and third-party network transactions is an IRS information report used to report certain payment transactions to improve voluntary tax compliance. You should receive Form 1099-K by January 31st. If in the prior calendar year you received payments either from payment card transactions such as debit, credit, or stored value cards, that is gift cards, and there's this other thing about $20,000 in 200 transactions. Pretty much everybody who's watching this probably didn't make $20,000 or have more than 200 transactions. But if you did, it's the same form as the basic $600 worth of credit and debit cards. So it's all the same thing. Form 1099-K includes the gross amount of all reportable payment transactions. You'll receive a Form 1099-K from each payment settlement entity, PSE, for which you receive payments and settlement of reportable transactions. A payment card transaction is any transaction in which a payment card or account number or other identifying data associated with a payment card is accepted. Third-party network transaction means any transaction that's settled through a third-party network, but that's on the $20,000 part 2 of this that won't apply to most folks. The gross amount of reportable payment does include any adjustments for credits, cash equivalents, discounts, amounts, fees, refunded amounts, and any other amounts. The dollar amount of each transaction is determined on the date of transaction. So, date of transaction. Again, this form will come to you from PayPal. If you do business on PayPal and eBay and Amazon, each one of them will send you a form. It should come to you by January 31st with the information about the transactions they processed for you in the previous year. So if this year was counting, 2021, you would get that by January 31st of 2022. Now here's something that's elsewhere in the documentation, but I'm just going to say it right up front because I know this is a big question for folks. This doesn't apply to this year. This doesn't take effect until next year. So you will not have to do this thing. You will not get this form in early 2022. Because in the first part of 2022, tax day is normally April 15th, my son's birthday. In the first part of 2022, you get like a W-2 from your employer if you're an regular employee. If you've been a contractor of some kind, you might get a 1099 miscellaneous or a different 1099 form. If you received financial assistance from the government, you may receive a different 1099-G form. You get all those forms, and you get on TurboTax, or you take it to an accountant or H&R Block, or who's the other guys? Well, one of those tax preparer guys, and they do all the paperwork and they get it in before April 15th. Last year we had an extension because of COVID. I don't know if that's still the case, but you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so in the early part of 2022, you would get forms that relate to money you made in 2021. You won't get this yet. This doesn't even start taking effect until transactions, sales that you make as of January 1st, 2022. So you do not need to worry about what you've done in the past. You don't need to worry about how much you did or didn't get transacted through PayPal in 2021 or 2020 or any time previous to that. This will not happen. So, I'm about to talk about keeping business records. If you didn't keep business records in 2021, that's not great, but it's okay for purposes of this form, because you should start doing that January 1st of 2022, so that 13 months later, when you get this form and they say, okay, here's all the stuff that came through PayPal for you in 2022, it will be early 2023, and you will have your business records, and you will be able to keep track of all of that. This is actually the next item on the understanding here. What should I do with this information? Why are you sending me this stupid form? It's important that your business books and records reflect your business income, including any amounts that may be reported on Form 1099-K. You must report on your income tax return all income you receive from your business. In most cases, your business income will be in the form of cash checks and debit/credit card payments. Business income is generally referred to as gross receipts. Gross means all of it. Receipts is money that came in. That's just accounting terminology on income tax returns. Therefore, you should consider the amounts shown on Form 1099-K along with all other amounts received when calculating gross receipts for your income tax return. So, if you sell some things for cash, and you will keep track of that yourself, and that won't appear on this form, which is sent to you and to the IRS. This form will only include things that were processed through PayPal or another similar organization, a PSE. So there's that. I do want to go back a second to something I read a moment ago. The amount that is on this form does not include any adjustments for credit, cash equivalents, discount amounts, fees, refunded amounts, or other amounts. So, my understanding is, again, not an accountant or a lawyer, that if you get a form like this from PayPal, it's going to include all the money that got given to PayPal to be shared with you, and it's not going to take out fees that PayPal charged you. I know that some folks use an invoicing system through PayPal where it automatically sends an invoice by email to your customer. And your customer, it's very easy for them to click on it and pay that invoice. And PayPal takes a fee as part of that service, as part of helping you with your business transactions. So the way I'm reading this, they won't have taken out those fees. So if you sold $100 worth of stuff and PayPal charged you $5 in fees, the form you get is going to say $100. So you actually have the responsibility. This is part of the cost of running your business to say, yeah, I made $100, but $5 of it went to fees. Or I made $10,000, but $500 of it went to fees, or whatever the number may be. So you're going to need to keep track of those things. The PayPal invoicing system has that information. So if you're using that system, it should be pretty easy to do. If you're not using that system, you may have to go back through your PayPal transactions or keep track of this as the year goes along, which is a better way to do it anyway. So there's that. Check your payment card receipt records and merchant statements to confirm that the amount on your Form 1099-K is accurate. So when you've sold things to people, you want to keep records of the amount. And you want to make sure when you get the Form 1099-K that the amount is correct. It is always possible, and I'm sure they will do their best to be accurate with this, because they can get in trouble if they are inaccurate a lot. But PayPal and similar companies could make a mistake about the amount of money that they processed for you. So you do want to keep track of everything you sell and how much you make and how much you get and how much the fees are and so on and so forth, so you can look at that number and say, yes, that's the correct number. If that's not the correct number, then you would contact PayPal or Amazon, etc., the PSE, to ask them for a corrected form. And that could be a giant pain in the neck. But that is the process. This page, again, is called Understanding Your Form 1099-K. And I'm not going to finish reading all the rest of these unusual questions, but these are some unusual questions. And if this comes up for you in the future, when you're actually running your business and it's now early 2023 and you get a 1099-K, if you get a form that doesn't belong to you, or it's a duplicate, or the tax ID number is wrong, we'll talk about that in a second, or the amount of money is wrong, the number of transactions is wrong, The merchant category code does not correctly describe your business. There's a field that says what type of business are you. Y'all are just basically retail to the best of my knowledge. But there's information here from the IRS about what you do if you get the wrong form, or you don't get a form, or the form has the wrong information. Again, this page is called Understanding Your Form 1099-K. Go to irs.gov and put 1099-K into the search box, and there it is right there. Okay, I think we've covered all of that information. I'm going to go over a little bit of stuff that's actually on the instructions for the 1099-K. If you are reading these instructions yourself, you need to remember that these instructions are actually to PayPal for the most part. It tells PayPal what they need to put on the form. So if you're reading this and you're like, what? I don't understand all of it. That's because, or possibly because, what you're reading is intended to go to PayPal, to the PSE. So here under specific instructions, a payment settlement entity, or PSE, must file Form 1099-K, payment card and third-party network transactions for payments made in settlement of reportable payment transactions each calendar year. We said that. A PSE, when they process your credit card stuff, that's a reportable transaction. They go into some detail here talking about what a PSE is, and they may also be involved in something called a third-party settlement organization, TPSO. That has to do with if there's a legal settlement and an organization is processing that for you, and that's where the $20,000 still comes in, and we're not going to worry about that. A participating payee is the person who got paid. That's you. Is any person, including a governmental agency, etc., who accepts a payment card or any account number or other indicia associated with a payment card as payments, or accepts payment from a TPSO, we don't really care about those, settlement of third-party network transaction. You received funds through a network transaction that involved a card or the numbers off a card. A payment card is any card, including any stored value card, which is like a gift card. It's worth exactly $50 and that's it. Issued according to an agreement or arrangement that provides all the following. One or more issuers of the cards. Yeah, the card came from somewhere. A network of persons unrelated to each other and the issuer who agree to accept the cards as payment, right? You're not related to PayPal and you're not related to Visa. That's what that says. And there are standards and mechanisms for settling the transactions between the merchant acquiring entities and the persons who agree to accept the cards as payment. There's a standard of transaction between you and PayPal. They have a format they use to get the money to you, to your bank account. And that's all that says. So this confirms that this applies to all those transactions and to you, and explains in detail kind of how they define that. Okay, there is an item here where they discuss unrelated persons. It's not entirely clear to me whether this means that if you sold your goods to a relative, your mom, your grandma, your aunt, your brother, whomever, whether or not these transactions would not count in that case. My best guess is that they do count in that case. I would suggest when you get to keeping your business records that you just put a little star next to, or a little note next to everything that went to a relative, and a double check when you get the 1099-K that the number is what you think it should be. There are a couple of additional pages here where they go on to discuss for companies that are outside the United States and and I'm just assuming that's none of us. So upper right of page 3, just for clarity here, under instructions, statements to payees. If you are required to file Form 1099-K, you must furnish a statement to the payee. So again, this is telling PayPal if they're required to file this form, which they are, then they have to send a copy of it to you. Again, you are payee in this case. So we'll look at the form and talk about the different boxes. For a moment, let's talk about TIN, which is tax ID number. Unless you have filed to get a tax ID number for your business, which usually means you've incorporated it in some way, and that's a legal process and all this stuff. If you've done that, then the government will have given you a tax ID number to use on your business tax returns and on your on these forms and all of that kind of thing. And if that's the case, you actually should be filing your business income on a different form, and you need to talk to an accountant and or an attorney. But if you are just a normal person who just sells these things in their spare time or whatever it may be, then what you will be using for your tax ID is your Social Security number. Yes, your Social Security number is your tax ID if you are not an incorporated business of some kind. I am 100% absolutely confident about that because I've been doing it for several years as an independent consultant for work. So, tax ID. It does say here that they might just put the last 4 digits of your Social Security number on the form in order to protect your privacy. Because you don't want people accidentally getting a hold of your Social Security number. That can lead to identity theft and all kinds of nastiness. So we definitely don't want that to happen. So your tax ID will be your Social Security number, most likely, for folks who are watching this. And they may just put the last 4 digits on there to abbreviate it. But those last 4, at least, should be correct. And if they're not correct, then you want to look at the calling PayPal and asking them to fix it part of these instructions. So within the actual form itself, there are several copies of this, of the actual 1099-K. And within it, behind the copy that would be sent to you, which is copy B for the payee, or send to payee, there is a page like this that says Instructions to Payee. These are the official super-duper instructions for this form to you when you get it. You've received this form because you have either accepted payment cards for payments or weird stuff about $20,000 that doesn't apply to you. Merchant acquirers and third-party settlement organizations as payment settlement entities, PSEs, must report the proceeds of payment card and third-party network transactions made to you on Form 1099-K under Internal Revenue Code Section 6050W. The PSE may have contracted with an electronic payment facilitator or other third party to make the payments. So if I don't know anything about selling on Amazon. If you sold something on Amazon and Amazon handled the credit card from the person who bought it, but they used a third party of some kind to actually get the money into your bank account, that may be the case. Amazon still has to fill out this form and send it to you. So I'm not entirely sure when else that would come up, but all of this still applies. If you have questions about the amounts reported on this form, contact the filer. That's PayPal. That's your PSE, whose information is shown in the upper left corner on the front of this form. If you don't recognize the filer in the upper left corner, contact the PSE, whose name and phone number are shown in the lower left corner above your account number. We'll wave the form at you in a second. Here we talk about payee's taxpayer identification number, or TIN. For your protection, it may show only the last 3 digits. You know the idea. Account number. There's a field for account number, and it may show an account number or other unique number. I assume that PayPal accounts are numbered, so there probably is a number to your account. You may be PayPal account number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 11, 14, 12, 6, whatever it may be. and so on and so forth. And then it goes into some of the individual boxes. So let's look at the individual boxes. Here is the actual form. Here's the actual form. There's a big box in the upper left for the filer's name, address, city, street, zip, etc. That's where PayPal will put themselves and their contact information. Further down the left side, payees, name, street address, city, town, province, etc., zip code. This is you. It will be your name, your address, and so on and so forth. There's a space near the lower left for the PSE's name and telephone number. I would be surprised if that's different from what's on top. If you are confused, I suggest you try calling that telephone number, or writing to the address in the upper left. But it should, to my understanding, it should say PayPal, and here's our phone number, and here's our address. And then bottom left is that account number space. Again, your PayPal account number, whatever it may be. Toward the upper middle, the filer's tax ID number, or TIN, that's PayPal's tax ID number. That's not going to be a Social Security number because they're like a business, an incorporated business. Payee's TIN, that's your TIN. It's right here in the middle, your TIN. That's your Social Security number, or at least the last 4 digits of it. Right underneath that is box 1A, gross amount of payment card third-party network transactions. This is the total amount of money that came into PayPal to be processed for you. Number of transactions. There are spaces to divide the transactions up by month. I don't know if that will be required or not by PayPal. It's kind of not relevant for you because you're going to do this on a yearly basis. Box number 2 is a merchant category code that will, again, describe the type of business you are, the type of seller you are. And that should be something fairly routine, benign, like retail or something like that. That's pretty much all on this form that you're likely to see and that you really need to be sure of. Now, however, there is a box number 4. It's right here. It says federal tax withheld, federal income tax withheld. I think this will be 0. But if you and the PSE have an arrangement whereby they keep some of your money to send to the IRS as income tax on what you sold, a number will be listed there. When it comes time for you to fill out your taxes, you're going to take that number and put it in basically the same field on your tax form to say, actually, PayPal or whoever already sent the IRS this